President Biden and Donald Trump will be back on a debate stage in 10 days. And the organizers just announced the ground rules to avoid moments like the one we just heard. Debate host CNN says microphones will be muted unless it's a candidate's turn to speak. Also, no props and no in-person audience. Here to discuss, Chuck Rocha, New York Times opinion contributor, co-host of the Latino Vote podcast, and president of Solidarity Strategies, and MSNBC senior political analyst Matthew Dowd. He is a former George W. Bush strategist and founder of Country Over Party. Matthew, what do you think of these debate rules? Are they going to make any difference?
Well, I think a couple of things is to set this up better for Joe Biden than it does for Donald Trump. And first is, and we'll talk about it, is Donald Trump seems to be raising the expectations for himself while simultaneously lowering the expectations for Joe Biden. And that is actually the opposite of what you should be doing in advance of these debates. But to me, the rules in this debate are, one, going to make it a better debate for everybody, because without audience interruptions, without Donald Trump's sort of chaotic shouting that he does in the debate, it should be a real conversation. And Donald Trump, as you know, Stephanie, in his life is not good at conversations. He's good at audiences, big audiences, and sort of doing his shtick that he does, but actually in a conversation with the moderators, and then in many ways, Joe Biden, I don't think he's good at that. So to me, the expectations that Donald Trump has raised himself and the rules, I think, position Joe Biden much better in this than Donald Trump.
Okay, then given all of that, Chuck, doesn't it surprise you, or I shouldn't say doesn't it, does it surprise you that Trump would agree to these terms? I mean, his circus is not welcome in this venue.
I'm with you 110%. There's one rule, and I've done presidential debate prep, and there's only one rule, and that is don't get mad. And you saw, and I think we're going to talk about it in the first debate last time, he acted like a crazy man, coming out there screaming and hollering. Now, one of the things that's really different in this debate is there's going to be a mute button, and I cannot wait to see how the mute button is really enforced here. And the second thing is you get one pencil and one pen, but I haven't seen yet in the rules if you can throw that pencil yet.
But then, Matthew, why would Trump agree to it, right? We know the way Trump operates is to stack the deck in his favor, and then he steps forward. I know that his campaign is dying to get him shoulder to shoulder in the same room with Joe Biden, but why on these terms? Yes, you said it best. It's going to be great for everyone, meaning the audience, but not him.
Well, it's interesting, and delving into the mind of Donald Trump, we might as well go into the multiverse and figure out what's happening there. It would be easier to do in this. I mean, I think it's ego. It's ego. And I think they had an expectation that Joe Biden didn't want to debate. And so I think they thought, well, hurry up and accept it. And it's going to force Joe Biden to debate. And therefore, it's going to be good for us because Joe Biden, in their minds, they've convinced themselves of this sort of Republican talking point that Joe Biden can't string words together, that he's too old, that all of the sorts of things that they've convinced themselves of, no matter what, reality you can show them in this. And so I think it's a combination of ego. And I also think they thought Joe Biden didn't want to debate, and they grabbed it as soon as they could, and I think to their detriment.
He actually loves to fight. I want to ask you, Matthew, because you always have to answer the Republican questions, about Senator Tim Scott. Over the weekend, he said that he stands by his decision to certify the election for Joe Biden. How is that going to work? I was pretty sure he wanted to be Donald Trump's VP pick, and that's got to knock him out of contention now.
Well, you would think, because Donald Trump kind of drew a line in the sand and said anybody that doesn't be completely obsequious to me and believes every lie I tell, then they're not going to be on the list at all. I don't know what Donald Trump, what his thinking in this is. I mean, as a political strategist, and Chuck could answer this as well in this, I think if I were Donald Trump, who I would pick is a younger woman to try to appeal to another generation. And then simultaneously, he could have a woman that would campaign. To me, the odds on to me, if I were picking, would be Elise Stefanik, who is totally obsequious, will do exactly what he says, is a new generation, and is a woman. That's what I think, political strategy-wise, would be the smart move.
All right, well, I want to ask Chuck something else. I want to share what Trump said this weekend when he was questioning President Biden's mental acuity.
I took a cognitive test and I aced it. Doc Ronnie Dr. Ronnie Johnson. Does everyone know Ronnie Johnson, congressman from Texas? He was the White House doctor.
No, nobody knows Doc Ronnie Johnson because his name is Ronnie Jackson. Can you give us your reaction to this moment? He was trying to go after President Biden's mental acuity and gets the guy's name wrong.
He loves these IQ tests. Every time he's out there talking about it, I'm like, why are you talking about the IQ test when you can't even look? I sound funny and I get it and I own that I sound funny, but he don't always sound like the sharpest cookie there. And I'm not running for president. I'm just another one of them dumb political consultants. He wants to be president of the United States, people. And back to Matthew's point, I think women in this election are probably going to determine who actually is going to be the president. So he should be doing everything he can to look smart, and women can see through a dumb man every day and twice on Tuesday.